Good morning, Gabriella. Well, it's afternoon for you.
Yeah. Well, it's morning for me because I had a nap this afternoon. So
I love it. So for everyone watching, today we're chatting with Gabriella Russo. But what's funny is when you dive into conversations with women from around the world, literally you end up with time differences that are quite diverse as well. So where it could be 8 in the morning here in the UK, it's actually 4 in the afternoon.
yeah.
And so we have the difference in time frame, but it makes life quite fun. And trying to connect with women from around the world has been absolutely fascinating and a highlight of the past 2 years since I've been doing this. But today our conversation is with Gabriella. She is from the UK, in kind of the London area, and I'll let her describe that a little bit more. But in the midst of meeting such wonderful women in the UK, I also met Gabriella. Actually, I think I met you through Jenny, our friend Jenny, at her author.
When she got her book launch.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's where we met, the book launch. Oh my word. Thank you, Jenny. We met through you. So Gabriella, I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
Okay.
And then we're going to dive into some of the fun questions that we like to ask, revolving around women and our lives and our hearts and what sets our soul on fire. So go ahead and introduce yourself to us.
Okay. So my name's Gabriella. I live just outside of London, in Hertfordshire. And I am single. I live quite near my church, near my family. I have done youth and children's work and all that kind of stuff, worked in anti-human trafficking. And I now am an independent safeguarding trainer. So I deliver safeguarding training to whoever will have me, basically. So working with charities and local authorities, parents, carers, whoever, is kind of the very brief version.
Yeah, so I want to ask you about this before we go further, but I'm really fascinated by the fact that you're an entrepreneur and you started your own business revolving around safeguarding. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure that we in the US use that word. We might, and I might just be unaware of it, but will you explain what safeguarding is? Because it's something that would be very useful here in the US. I think it might just look different. And then also what inspired you to go this route?
Okay, so safeguarding is basically about keeping children, young people, vulnerable adults and adults safe from any forms of abuse or mistreatment. So it plays into lots of different laws and things like that here, including equality and inclusion. And yeah, we have a whole system of obviously training people so that they have safeguarding knowledge, so they know how to deal with things if stuff comes up. So particularly if you're working with children, young people, and they make disclosures, like what do you do with that? Who do you speak to? What are the rules, regulations? Yeah, that's kind of it in its broadest terms. It's keeping people safe.
Keeping people, and does that include all assets, businesses, nonprofits, churches?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're essentially.
Yeah. So I was going to say, like, for a lot of people, they sort of think it's education, non-profits, charities that are working with children, young people, vulnerable adults. But the truth is that safeguarding matters in whatever area you're in, because even if you're in some sort of business that ostensibly doesn't look like it's got anything to do with it, if you're employing people, you have to be aware of their safeguarding as well. So it cuts everything.
What inspired you to do this, to open up your own business, to start training on safeguarding? What's your biggest inspiration behind this?
For me personally, I love delivering training. I love working with people. I really enjoy that interaction and being responsive to where people are at, and also seeing those kind of moments where the light goes on and they understand something and they realize that they can make a difference. So I enjoy that in whatever work I've done. But I've worked with children, young people, and in all sorts of different arenas in terms of being against abuse, supporting people through abusive situations. And so for me, the more people are safeguarding aware, the safer people can be. So that inspires me as well.
I noticed on your website that not only do you train, but some of the words you used inspired me, because you say your safeguarding training is also about empowering people.
Yeah.
Will you explain that?
So more often than not, if I'm doing training for professionals, it's helping them to realize that they can make a difference, even though in lots of jobs it feels like you're really getting nowhere.
Yeah.
It can empower people very simply by them understanding what they need to do.
Mm-hmm.
But also I work with, so for example, one of my big things at the moment is online safety.
Yeah.
So I'm working with parents and carers and foster carers, and it empowers them to understand the online world, which means they can actually parent in a better way, rather than feeling a bit fearful of the online world or not understanding it properly. And also some of the work I've done has actually been around, well, for 5 years, I worked with the NSPCC, which is a UK organisation working in children's anti-abuse work. And we worked in schools, and we were actually teaching children what abuse is, so that if it was happening to them, they would know it was wrong and they could get the help that they needed and figure out who trusted adults were and stuff like that. So it's empowering them. When I was working in anti-human trafficking, I did some work with the YMCA. So working with young people who are actually very vulnerable to trafficking and teaching them about what grooming looks like, for example, so they could be empowered to be safe and be aware and look out for what's healthy and be aware of what isn't. So the empowering thing cuts across lots of different things as well.
Yeah. Okay.
The whole,
yeah, no, I'm thinking about the online. Where do you even begin with that, with online training and what abuse might look like and what grooming might look like?
Oh my goodness. I'd say at the very basic level is, when I'm working with parents, for example, is helping them to not be afraid of the online world, because our sort of generation aren't digital natives in the same way that kids are.
Yeah.
I can remember not having the internet. Yeah, right. It's like it's natural-ish to me because I've worked in circles with youth and children and whatever, where we've had to get used to it. But for a lot of parents, it's like, oh my gosh, I don't know what they're doing. I don't understand. The kids are kind of dancing around us and they're like 50 million miles ahead in terms of understanding technology. And it can feel like a scary place to have to parent. So on a very basic level, it's increasing their confidence in understanding the online world and understanding where they can get help and support, so they can be a bit more ahead of the game and feel more confident.
Yeah.
In terms of the types of threats and things that are on the internet, in many respects, it's the same as what's offline.
Yeah.
It can feel bigger and scarier because it comes into your home. We're more accessible, but the basics are the same. Grooming is grooming, whether it's online or face-to-face. Sexual abuse is the same. I know it's not the same in terms of physical touch, perhaps, but it's still exploiting someone for their body.
Yeah.
So all of those things in many respects are the same. There are nuances, there's access that's different. And actually helping people to understand how to make themselves as safe as possible is really important. Like nothing's 100% secure. But just very simple things like making sure stuff's set to friends only rather than public, unless you're making a conscious decision to be public about something. All of those little things are maybe things that people aren't aware of. You know, they'll open an account and not realise that it's all completely public. Scam calls and things like that. People don't necessarily understand what that's all about. Is that your coffee arriving?
You
Go get your coffee.
can hear it. I was waiting for my boys to get the door.
Sorry, guys.
I love that. That's so funny. Squirrels, yes. That's so funny. I'm so used to like ignoring everything that goes on around me. Yes, my coffee.
I tried to ignore it a couple of times. It's like third time I'm going to have to say something.
You can get the door now, Christelle.
Go get the door, then we carry on the conversation. You did say this is like us having a chat and a coffee, so
I hope everyone has their coffee. Mine has just arrived. The door has been knocked 3 times. That's so funny. Okay, so going back to the whole grooming thing. We don't have to get into the details of that because we can send people to your website. They can contact you. Oh my word, I got a cold coffee. I wanted a hot coffee. It's okay. I'm not gonna be, you know, when you're like expecting hot and that's okay. It's okay.
But it's hot where you are anyway, isn't it? So
well, I'm wearing a sweatshirt. I mean, I like to wake up to my hot coffee.
Oh well.
Oh my word. Going back to the grooming thing. It's something that I want to talk about this because it's something that I actually dealt with my own boys when they were quite a bit younger. It's been a few years now. And so not to get into like every single thing people have to be aware of, but to know that it happens and to not be afraid to call the authorities, because I kind of want your input on this. What I did is I looked at my boys' accounts, and again, it's been many years, and I saw what I thought was predatory grooming. And I kept second guessing myself. And I kept wanting to say, no, it can't possibly be what I think I'm seeing. But I had been on the internet long enough to be aware. So I finally ended up calling an organization that we have here in America. And they said, no, we're turning it over to the FBI. The next day, the FBI and the CIA and the police came to my door because they all work together. Like there's, what is it called? There's like the little, they partner up together because they have to be aware of everything happening at all times. So they ended up actually confiscating my son's phone and getting very involved. And I remember from that moment forward, I thought I am never going to second guess myself because I'd rather be wrong and embarrassed than miss something.
I would say rather be wrong, but never be embarrassed.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Yeah.
Sorry. Just
no,
to be
yeah, no, that's better. Absolutely.
Likewise, here we have different places you can call before you speak to the police if necessary. Again, the NSPCC adult helpline is a really good one. Children can call Childline, which is like the phone and online sort of portal for them to speak to someone if they're worried about anything. Local authority, you can look up the numbers online. Nobody who is professionally within safeguarding is going to be annoyed if you were wrong. They will talk it through and figure it out. And so I for me, if you're not sure, then speak to somebody.
Yeah.
Simple as that. Simple as that. And, you know, for you were a mother in that situation. Your mother's instinct would have kicked in as well. You know, we can trust our own instincts about stuff.
And that's so key. Isn't that key, Gabriella? And even as women, to learn to trust our own instincts.
Yeah.
Because
I've talked to children about that as well.
Yeah.
When I go to schools, it's like, actually, if it doesn't feel right, there's something not right. And even if it is just you feeling uncomfortable, so that you need to speak to somebody to kind of sort it out in your own head, that still means that something needs to be said to somebody.
Yeah, key to children, key to victims, key to survivors, key to women.
Yeah. Key to men as well, key to anyone across the whole spectrum of gender. If something doesn't feel right, you need to find somewhere safe to speak to somebody, to kind of get it out of yourself and have a look at it and think about it.
Is it common across the board that we tend to second guess ourselves? Yeah.
I think so. I absolutely think so. I think particularly if it's something that is actually abusive, depending on what kind of abuse it is, there can be a sense of, I can't believe I'm actually one of those people that it happens to.
Yeah.
This can't be right.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that offensively because I've been in abusive situations, but we go through that. I can't believe I'm actually being one of those people. If it's not as obvious as something really physical, we can absolutely go, well, maybe if I hadn't have said this, or maybe they were right, maybe, you know, the whole situation around gaslighting and making you think that you've got it wrong, you're being overreactive. As females, you're being over emotional, all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, we absolutely do.
And the stigma surrounding it, and not possibly being believed, because a lot of it goes on behind closed doors. Nobody sees it. And perpetrators show their best side always.
The other thing is that we do this comparison of, well, it's not as bad as XYZ, so it can't be proper abuse. You know, so for example, things like bullying.
Yeah.
If you're being bullied, you can be like, it's only bullying.
Yeah.
But it's not. That's abusive.
Yeah.
And all of it has to stop, because all of it makes us more vulnerable.
Yeah.
It causes problems. It causes damage. And what I'm not saying is if someone bullies you, like, bring in the police, but it's just as valid a kind of abuse and something that needs to be stopped and dealt with as anything else.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's no shame in walking away.
No.
A lot of times bullies are the ultimate victims. And so when the actual bullied puts a stop to it or shuts it down, the bully will make them look like the perpetrator or the bully.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the tricky thing, you know, living that kind of out. But going back to children.
Okay.
I want to ask you this, because I take care of a lot of children. I have a lot of children in my life. And a conversation that keeps coming up with me and parents is children actually are very intuitive. And on the one hand, they can be trusting, but they can also be intuitive. And this whole thing with, I don't know if you have this in the UK, but in America, it's like, hug everyone, just give them a hug, give them a hug. And something that is new in conversation here is we don't need to force our children to hug people they don't want to hug.
Yeah.
We don't need to force them to shake hands with people that if they don't want to.
It's certainly something that I'm seeing a change here as well. I grew up in we're a very huggy family. I'm also half Italian. So basically you'll be walking down the street and in Italy, and like I've been out to Italy with my dad, and it's someone he knows from childhood, and before you know, they're giving you kisses everywhere, and you're like, I don't even know who you are.
Yeah.
And it's a cultural thing, and I think it's an interesting one, because it felt uncomfortable for me when I was younger, because I wasn't quite used to that. But within that culture, it didn't feel too forced.
Okay.
It just feels very natural. And I've been in other cultures when I've worked abroad where, you know, all of that is just very, very natural. But I certainly think that this whole change now, where it's like, if a child doesn't want to give someone a hug, then they don't have to, is actually teaching them body autonomy. It's teaching them they have a right to say no. And that's more important than whether it looks polite or not. Far more important. Because it can become so ingrained that as someone gets older, they just feel like they can't say no.
Yeah.
It's what's expected. It's, you know, it's dangerous.
If we can teach our children to be powerful in their no now, whether we're teachers or parents or carers in any regard, how important would that be, and what a life changer that would be, I think.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be, I think also we kind of cross over saying no with being rude.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not being rude.
Yes.
It's just saying, I'm not comfortable with that. But I still respect you. I'm saying it nicely. No, thank you. And in actual fact, if the other person tries to persist, then they're the ones who are being rude.
Absolutely. I've learned in recent days that those who don't like our boundaries or our no, I mean, that's exactly why we've set those boundaries or said the no. And you're only legitimized in that when you say no and by their response.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Gabriella,
Crystal.
You know, I was going to ask you these questions. We're going to move on from what you do, though you're very passionate about it, and there's good reason to be. But as a woman, we talked about this prior, and you texted me a few things about what sets your soul on fire and what you're most passionate about. So will you tell our friends, what sets your soul on fire? What are you passionate about?
People knowing their worth. Because that for me is the foundation of absolutely everything else. And when I talk about it, I'm talking to myself because I'm still learning
Yeah.
to be comfortable and secure in my worth. But when people feel seen and known and loved, it changes everything. When people don't feel seen, or they feel seen and judged, then they shrink. And there's so much around sort of shame and embarrassment that just kills off us being who we are. And I just love seeing that change. You give someone a compliment, or you really encourage them in something, and it changes for them. It can change everything. Yeah. And that just excites me. That really excites me.
Where does this passion come from?
Partly, I don't know. Like, I've always been like that in a way. Partly, I think it's because some of my experiences have ripped away that self-worth. And so I know what it feels like to not think you're worth anything. And I'm not saying like I'm this wonderful, amazing, loving person. Like, I'm not, but I can't bear seeing other people feel like that, because I resonate. Genuinely, I just hate it. I hate it when someone else feels small and insignificant and unloved and like they don't matter. I can't bear it because I know how it feels. And so I don't want people to feel like that, because it's crap, quite honestly. Yeah.
You said something else about inclusivity. Will you talk about that a little bit?
So I believe that every person has got intrinsic value and worth. So that includes everybody. That includes everybody, whether they are straight, LGBTQI plus, whether they are male, female, non-binary, trans. The actual person isn't about their physicality, it's about the person. And then also that also tips over to things like neurodiversity and people who think differently or who want to live in a slightly different way. You can't say people have value and worth if you go, except for this, and this. Because then you're not saying people have value and worth. You're saying the people who are like me have value and worth. And that doesn't add up. That doesn't make sense to me. So it's take each person on face value.
You have value and worth as long as you fit into this box.
Yeah. That's not value and worth. That's box ticking. That's can I only create a world that is exactly like me because that's most comfortable. That's what I understand. And I think part of it is being comfortable with holding, not knowing everything. So I don't understand what makes some people think certain ways. I don't get it. Doesn't mean I don't value it. Doesn't mean that I can't be open to learning. It doesn't mean I can't sit there and go, well, this is how I see it. I cannot for the life of me get how you see it that way, but that's okay. Do you know what I mean? Like, why shouldn't I be uncomfortable? Why shouldn't I be uncomfortable? It's challenging. And, my beliefs in that have changed because I've been challenged. And I've realized that where I used to, it's taken me a long time, but where I used to perhaps believe certain, I'm not saying people who are abusive or, do you know what I mean, all that kind of stuff, but I would be like, this is the correct lifestyle. Everyone else
Yeah.
has got it wrong. One day they'll learn.
Yeah.
And that's just a rubbish way of being. That's not valuing human life. So yeah, that's how I
Yeah.
feel about that. And I think it's because it tips over into exactly what my work is about, which is abusive stuff, right?
Yeah.
If you don't fit into my particular mold, then you're going to be rejected. Maybe you won't get this job. Maybe you won't be accepted into this group or this community. Maybe you'll get beaten up. Maybe you'll get called names or told that you can't have certain human rights. Well, I can't be someone who says that I'm anti-abuse and I want people to be free of that, and then go, but only certain people can fit into the mold of what's acceptable. I can't do that.
So often, various communities have a goal of changing people.
Yeah.
That's not safe?
No. I'm not saying we can't be challenged.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that people shouldn't be challenged to live in a better, more generous, more loving way.
Mm-hmm.
Challenging certain behaviors is fair enough.
Absolutely.
Challenging who someone is intrinsically as a person is not.
Absolutely. Some of my biggest changes have come from being very overtly challenged. And so sometimes I think that's good.
Yeah. It's not fun at the time.
No. And it's funny because usually when we need to be challenged, our first reaction, well, I should speak for myself. My first reaction is, what? And then I think about it and ponder for a week and go, okay,
Yeah.
they're right. I need to think about this. Oh, yes. But I would say some of my biggest life changes and mind shifts have come from being very, very overtly challenged.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like you said, we don't change who someone is at the core. That should never be who someone is.
Yeah, I think for me, some of the biggest times of change have also been when I've found myself in the position that I've judged other people for.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly gone, oh, well, hang on a minute. I don't want to be judged for this situation. So now I've got to rethink how I view that. And I'm gradually associating myself with the out crowd more than the in crowd. Sort of like the in crowd, the sort of people that are the epitome of everything that's like how you think it should be. And then you kind of go, oh, hang on a minute, I've gone through that thing. I am a bit more in the out crowd. The out crowd's more fun anyway, to be fair. Yeah,
I'm pondering. This blank look on my face is me pondering. The out crowd, the in crowd. It's funny, Gabriella, because I never understood who the in and out crowd is, and I don't know what that means. You're
okay,
talking
so
to
I think like it's probably a perception in a certain way. For me, it's something that is a bit of a hangover from, say, school, where you have like the in crowd and then the slightly weird kids and all that kind of. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
And yeah, it's become a bit of a hangover from that. But I think what I've begun to realize is that all these people who are kind of assumed as being a little bit, it's probably what I'm talking about, all these different communities, people who don't fit into what's considered the norm, they're actually much more fun to be around. They're more realistic. They're not trying to cover up stuff. You know, it's like, yeah, this is who I am.
Yeah.
So I think I've discovered that a lot since I started my business, because the communities that I'm in of other entrepreneurs it's a neurodivergent community that I'm in. And it's all these people that society, for many of us, would say you wouldn't be capable of.
Yeah.
You don't fit into the 9 to 5 workplace, for example.
Yeah.
Like, hell, you're right, I don't, because the 9 to 5 workplace is a pretty damn boring place to be. I'd rather be out with like the cool kids doing like the slightly crazy stuff, the fun things, the creative things. But we spend a lot of our time trying to fit into this kind of, I suppose in crowd is the wrong word, but we try and fit into this kind of mold of, you go to work 9 to 5 Monday to Friday, unless you're in a job like medicine or whatever, where you have to do more shift type things. You know, all of that kind of thing. And I'm going, my brain doesn't work that way. So do you know what? I might get inspiration at 2 a.m. and I'll finish that piece of work and then I'll sleep until midday. And everyone, you know, in the normal scheme of things would go, sleeping until midday, that's not a very good work ethic. I'm like, I did the work.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's probably what I mean by the in and out crowd in a way, or kind of what's perceived as normal and acceptable.
So the neurodiverse group that you invited me into, which I absolutely love, and Tim and I actually interviewed.
Oh, you interviewed Sarah, didn't you?
Yes, it was so good, and it was actually really funny because I was trying to fit my interviews in right before I go to work, and I told her this. And this is what a good coach she is. She goes, Christelle, it's time. You have to go now.
I saw it. I was watching it.
It was so good. I just wish I had the time because of the time difference.
Yeah.
Most of the meetings are when I really need to be in bed, like 2 a.m. They fall at like 2 a.m. here, and it's like normal time for you guys. And I'm like, I so want to be in some of those meetings.
It's starting to change that a little bit because we've got some more people from across the pond in there now. So
that would be so good. There's a couple things
in there.
Yes, there's a couple things. There's a couple meetings I wanted to go to, and some of the small groups. I can't quite remember what they are. So I need to pay attention because they're so good, just so good.
Yeah.
And the coaching that goes on is incredible.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And I keep hearing you've gotten a lot out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I, you know, came out of my old job in the pandemic, which is a really good time to leave a job.
Yeah.
And then sort of thought, okay, I had, you know, some different circumstances that led me to realize I could do this work myself. I was like, that's great. I can do this stuff. I have no idea how to run a business.
Yeah.
So I got a business coach who we all know, Will Taylor, who's amazing. And he got me started. And then I joined the group. And what it wasn't a bunch of people going, well, this is the proper way to run a business. They were going, if your brain works this way, how can we make the business work so that you're at your most efficient, your best, rather than trying to squeeze yourself into a box of what's expected? And you're surrounded by people who are doing that, you know. So you don't feel like you're fighting against your own, who you are.
Oh my goodness. When I saw that in the group, I thought, if we had all been living our life like this and been allowed to do this from day one.
Yeah.
It's so key, because it's not that neurodiverse people can't do the work or the false stereotype that they're lazy. It's that we work different.
Yeah.
And under extreme conditions, the truth is we can do the work of 10 people in about an hour. And it's just a matter of you know, getting there. And so
and actually it frees you to not spend time beating yourself up about your system and just allows you to get on with your system.
We've been forced to fit into a certain way of life.
Yeah.
And forced to accept a certain way of working as if it should be the normal thing. And if you don't do this, you're wrong. So stay focused, do this, do that. Yeah. Oh, I have to say,
you'll get there eventually, or you're not very good at your job or whatever. And it's like, that's the truth of the matter is most entrepreneurs are neurodivergent.
Yeah.
That's a fact. Yeah. Because we think out of the box. Because we're like, I've got to do this differently.
Yeah.
Or being creative in a particular way or whatever. And it's taken a bit of a lifetime to go, okay, this is actually me. Yeah. This is how I do things. And that's tough if you don't like it.
So I'm really fascinated by this. You've gotten a couple of coaches to help you. And I think I'll speak for myself as a neurodiverse person.
Mm-hmm.
This is fascinating to me because I know that I definitely need coaching in very specific avenues. So, Will Taylor, how specifically did he help you with his coaching?
So his thing with business coaching is that he's a therapeutic business coach.
Mm.
So he works very much from what sets your soul on fire.
Oh,
What's
wow.
in you that we can pull out and then form into the business that comes from your heart rather than from what you think you should be doing. So the first few sessions were just talking around some of the stuff that we've talked about today and forming, some of these ideas. He was very key in actually helping me to put the website together in terms of some of the wording. I had another friend who did some of that as well, friend Rach, who put, some of the copy together as well. But he works by pulling that out of you rather than going, how do you want to make a business work? He's like, who are you?
Mm.
So it was kind of slightly therapy as well.
Yeah.
um,
So you're working from the core of who you are and what lights you on fire and what your passion is. And why are we not all doing this in life? Why is this stuff?
Because we're told not to, because we're told that's where the job is, that's how you earn money, this is what, it's like, I don't know, it's probably kind of a really deep thing, but I've been thinking quite a lot lately. Like before the Industrial Revolution or whatever, like how did we exist? We woke up when the sun came up, we worked the land, we did enough to provide for ourselves, and we're on this treadmill now, aren't we?
Mm.
Productivity and money and I'm not saying, because all jobs, most jobs that are out there, somebody likes that job, right? I'm not saying it's wrong, but why should we all have to do it that way?
Yeah,
I wasn't created to do it that way.
absolutely.
You know?
What was fascinating about lockdown and coming out of it is it really was a reset and a reboot for many of us.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
have you found that a lot of sadness came out of it? I don't want to downplay that. A lot of really bad, horrible things came out of it. I don't want to downplay that. But also a rebooting happened, a reset for some of us, especially in the neurodiverse community.
I mean, that was quite funny because a lot of us sitting there going, we told you this was a better way.
Yeah.
We were running around, for introverts, they're all going, yeah, hallelujah. No one's allowed to see me.
I have an excuse to not go anywhere.
That wasn't me, by the way, but do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, you're absolutely right. There was a reset, and so many people I know who are like, this has been my dream to be able to work this way forever, and now other people are getting it.
Chioma says lockdown absolutely forced us to stop and take stock. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. And, okay, so the message of reset, Chioma's saying reset. The message of it's okay to try again and again and again and again. If there's anything we can learn from neurodiverse people, it's that it's okay to begin again and again and again. And we can try a million times until the one thing works.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I could say now I'm running my business. It's kind of, it's going the way I want to. There's no doubt there are things about running a business that are still stuff that doesn't light me on fire. I'd like to light it on fire, but it doesn't light me on fire, some of it. The paperwork stuff and things. But, I found a way that is working for me, but it doesn't mean to say I won't change that next year.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I get fed up with it, if I find that something else is, or the system that I've been using or the way that I've done X, Y, Z, I'll try again. I'll do it a different way. I've had to in the last, year or so. I've been learning how to run a business in a way that I can do it.
Yeah.
I've not had to learn about safeguarding. I've not had to learn how to deliver training. I've had to learn how to run a business.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. You just keep trying.
Okay, so I asked you about Will,
Mm-hmm.
and I meant to ask you the follow-up question, the second part of your coaching. Tell us about that. You said you got another.
So joined How to Entrepreneuro, which is the group that we're both in. And then this incredible human called G, who is all sorts of awesome, runs this course called Brand Masters, where you join a small community of you. So there was only 5 or 6 of us on this particular one for 12 weeks with training and coaching every week, and taking you on a journey of how to promote, looking at your personal brand, your business brand, how to knit that together, how to use social media, all that kind of stuff. So you would pick one thing that you're trying to sell, and then they took us on this journey of how to get it out there. And so I joined that, and it was incredible. Did it earlier this year, and it's been so much fun, and I've learned so much, and I'm now part of their actual community that we still meet every week. So we meet once a week for 2 hours on a Friday. G is there for any of your needs or questions or support around business. And we have like an online office together. And so, you know, they'll crack the whip when necessary. I had it cracked on me yesterday because I had an article I was trying to write that I've really struggled with. And so they were like, I want it done today before the session finishes so I can proofread it for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, just learned so much, and working with people in all sorts of different businesses. So the group that I was part of in the 12-week thing, there was a personal trainer, a counsellor, someone who's a food expert working around sort of allergies and things like that in the food industry. Someone else who does sort of crystal healing type work, and someone who runs a dog training business. And we all put together in this community, and we've had a blast and learnt a load. So yeah, those are the things that I've done.
I imagine a group like that would be full of energy.
Yeah.
Lots of ideas and full of a lot of energy.
Yes. Yeah. And we're still, you know, we've got a WhatsApp group now and stuff like that, and we're still posting stuff in there and going, can anyone tell me what you think of this? And like being like a slightly away from it, but being able to read things or suggest things and share each other's stuff and promote each other and support each other. So yeah, I've kind of stumbled in ways into some incredible communities of very, very different people who all get on, which makes the point. Being yourself works.
Chioma says, well done for starting again, Gabriella. So brave. Do you guys know each other, Chioma? And
I know Chioma from when you interviewed her, and we've connected.
Oh, you'll be best friends now. Come to my wedding. I want all of you there. Everyone to meet.
We'll be at the England one.
The England one. That's what I mean. Yeah. Good people. As we close, Gabriella, I want to ask you, because I ask everyone this.
Okay.
And our conversations are around women and empowering women and helping women see their worth, and of course helping all humans, but specifically women right here and right now. What would your message be to women, whether they're neurodiverse or not? What is your message to women?
You matter. Your voice matters and is needed, and that we need to champion each other. So anyone who's got a space at the table needs to invite others rather than hold it securely because I've finally got a space at the table. Like, we need to be people that bring other people in all the time. And don't believe the lies.
Yeah. Yeah.
The lies that say you're not worth anything, the lies that say that your voice is less than, or you're weak because you're emotional, or all of that, it's all lies. It's all lies. You're worth gold. You're pure gold. You have value. You matter. Your voice matters. Your life matters. And you have something to give as well.
Thank you, Gabriella. Powerful messages. This is often my favorite part of our conversations, is the messages women have for other women. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing a bit of your empowerment story and what you do. And everything matters, and we learn so much from each other. So thank you for joining us today, and our friends watching, thank you. Where can our viewers find you online?
So if you search, I've got a Facebook page. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. I'm on everything. LinkedIn, if people are like more interested business wise. And I've got my website, which is all with my name, Gabriella Russo. I should put my surname up. Yeah.
Gabriella
So,
Russo.
yeah. So the website's gabriellarusso.co.uk. On Facebook, it's Gabriella Russo Safeguarding, which is the same on Instagram. Yeah, I can be found. I can put links on here afterwards as well.
Wonderful. Yeah, I was going to ask if you could do that. Put your links on and we can all go find you.
Okay.
And if someone wants to hire you for safeguarding training, they can find you on your website.
Yeah.
Or Facebook, I guess, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you again. Thank you, Chalma, for commenting. Thank you, everyone, for watching. We will be back in... Oops, my computer's trying to reboot right now. No, we don't want to leave. Okay, we're trying to reboot. Thank you for watching. We'll be back in a month. Bye-bye.
Bye.